Welcome to Healing Generations, a podcast creating a dialogue uplifting the importance of healing, strengthening, and supporting our communities, and that addresses the disparities and inequities in communities of color. Healing Generations is brought to you by the Healing Generations Institute, a collaborative initiative of the National Compadres Network and the Brotherhood of Elders. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on our new releases.
Welcome. I just want to welcome everyone today to our Healing Generations women sponsor or the Comadre sponsored podcast where we get to have a conversation amongst women. And so it is really truly a blessing to be able to sit, me with my comadre, Maestra Susie, as we have the pleasure to introduce our audience to wonderful, wonderful women out there doing different work, healing work in the way that they do it reflective of who they are. And so it really is a privilege, for us to be sitting in this position. My name is Deborah Louise Camarillo, and I'm coming to you from the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, Ohlone territory. And actually, comadre, it is a beautiful day today because yesterday it was like so windy and foggy and cold, and today the sun is out. The bay was so beautiful this morning. And yeah, just really enjoying, Papa Sol out there this morning. And how are you doing over there? How's Southern Cal?
Okay, we do have Papa Sol up there, and I'm always grateful for that energy to start the day, a new beginning. Just a little heavy heart this morning, a little bit, Mother. There's a lot of, unfortunately, a lot of fires going on over here in San Bernardino County, and a lot of people losing their homes, unfortunately. Just sending a lot of love and prayers and asking Creator's mercy over there to help them have the courage to go forward, accept what's going on, and just be able to get what they need for their families, for themselves, and just hang on to their faith, primero Dios, for that, as well as the tornadoes of Chain, Louisiana. They're always having to deal with that. I don't know how they've been able to persevere and endure, all that tragedy in that weather, but my heart is there today. I'm just really asking for Creator and ancestors to help that situation, for that mercy, primero Dios.
Yes. Well, thank you for just reminding all of us, because sometimes because we're okay, we forget that not everybody's okay. And so thank you for that reminder. I know my family in Texas was going through it like last month, and the weather is so unpredictable. And so there's a lot of our gente, people just struggling at this time, right, for the different challenges, right, through the weather. And so thank you. And so our prayers are with you if you're listening to us and maybe you're finding yourself in that position, or maybe having to clean up, Really, our hearts and our prayers go out to you. But hang on. This is the time to hang on to the faith. Hang on to that is greater than you. Hang on, because you made it this far. There's a purpose for you. So don't give up. Hang on. And Creator will make a way. And I think that's the amazing part, right? Is that the way just unfolds, and it's just things that we never would have even dreamed of at times.
Right.
And just amazing love that gets shined down on us. So thank you, comadre, for that. And if you're joining us, and we're so glad that you are and that you've chosen to spend this hour with us, we just want to thank you. Thank you for your faithfulness, for always joining us. Wherever you are around the world, we're so appreciative that you choose to join us in our conversation. And like we say, there's going to be something here said today that's going to bring you a little closer to the healing that you need. And you're going to leave a little bit better after this conversation, I assure you, as we continue to make history, right? Because this conversation will never again be said the way it is. And so we all make history together. So with that, comadre, I'm excited. We have a wonderful guest. I think for me, the exciting part is when we see this younger generation, my heart just jumps up and down because it's like I have no doubt that they're going to take us to places that we couldn't show, right? We couldn't travel. But this next generation is just shining. And so I'm excited with our guest today. And so I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce our listeners to her.
Thank you, comadre. So excited as well. You know, she's such a special mujer. We had the pleasure of sitting with her in Círculo for our comadre's retiro and spend a few days with all the magic and all the love and all the light that she just emanates. It has brought so much life to our Círculo, so much life to my heart, a lot of joy. She is Dulce Lopez, a first-generation Mexican-American. She is a licensed psychologist whose life's purpose has been to empower individuals to transform through love. Amor. Oh, what the world needs now. Lots of love, lots of love. Often referred to as Doctora Corazon, the doctor of the heart. Dr. Lopez has been a practicing clinician for over 19 years in California. She's an international motivational speaker and facilitator, speaking regularly on subjects of love and transformation through love. Metamorphosis, gatherings, and Doctora Dulce's Love Journal and her 2 core offerings designed for individuals as tools of self-discovery toward harnessing their inner love and personal power. Dr. Lopez studied and worked in London, Mexico City, Chennai, India. The enriching experiences abroad have shaped her life's journey and have helped her to uncover her life's mission. As such, she went on to receive her doctorate in psychology from Alliant International University. Dr. Lopez resides with her husband, a social worker, and her beautiful children in the Bay Area of Northern California. Welcome, comadre, Dulce. And Dulce, you are so sweet, such a beautiful, loving heart. I'm just going to pass you the palabra and let you introduce yourself and invite you to just share a little bit about yourself. Who is Dulce? Who is Dulce, that doctor of the heart? Share yourself, your familia, maybe, what you're doing at this time or what you're connected to. Anything that comes from your heart that you're inspired to share. We're all ears. We're all ears. Por favor.
Primero que nada, muchísimas gracias. Thank you so much for inviting me to this sacred space, to the ways that you hold so many of us in such a good way. I feel truly honored to be with both of you as you both have impacted my life. And it just feels like this podcast in particular is about healing in a reciprocal way, right? Where cuando mi corazón sana, tu corazón sana. And so our hearts are healing together. And so I want to just start briefly. I am so many things, but I want to bring in la energía de mis padres. I am the daughter of Gloria Díaz from Mexicali. I am the daughter of Guillermo Samarripa from León, Guanajuato. And I am a proud representation and semilla of who they are and who their parents are and were. And all the decisions, the hard decisions they had to make to come to this country, to begin a new life. So I felt maybe from a very young age que era mi compromiso. It's my birthright to serve and live a good life and show up in a good way. And I remember having that feeling from a very young age. Like I was very metiche, very nosy. I loved meeting people, getting to know their story. Muy curiosa. Una niña muy curiosa, just a very curious child. And so I'm bringing in, the various phases of who I am and who I was and who I am becoming. And my hope is that in our sharing today, in our ceremonia de palabra, that we give breath to those folks that are listening, those folks that are coming in, that que le damos aliento because we're in a very challenging time in our lives currently. As you had brought in, Maestra Susie, thank you for bringing in the challenges of the weather and el clima, and just the multiple things that are happening around the world. And so as Maestra Deb was talking about, we have to keep holding on. We have to keep going. I was like, wow, you both have such a poder in your palabra and what you say and how it like pierces our corazón in such a way that it breaks us open to continue the healing. Y para mí eso es muy importante. It's very important to remember that this healing journey is lifelong. And so I've committed to that. So I bring in, my ancestros. I'm a mother of two. I'm an esposa. I'm a friend. I'm a dreamer. I'm a weaver. And pues estoy en una misión. I'm in a big mission, y'all, to bring in más amor porque we need it. We need a lot of love. And so I'm honored to have this experience and being with you both here.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And because you talk about like the multifacets, I really appreciate that, right? Because it's not one dimensional. It's 3, 4, 5 dimensional. It's who we are as people and how we're affected in all of those intersections. And so I want you to share with our audience so that they can really get a glimpse of who you are. So who was Dulce, that little girl that traveled, that got here, had to go to school? What was that like? What were those trials like, that shaped you really to get to this place to say, you know what, I'm going to pursue a PhD, a doctorate in psychology, to be a psychologist. And you're young. And so to make those decisions and really be very concrete to get there, what were some of those challenges? And what were those things that helped you to stay on the path? Because there's so many temptations to take us off the path so that our audience can see you in that multi-dimension.
Gracias, Maestra. Buena pregunta. It has been a journey. It has been a journey. And when I introduce myself and I say that I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, se oye bien fácil, like it sounds so easy, like it's just these palabras, but it was a journey. As I mentioned, I feel like my calling or my life's mission found me, and I could not say yes. O sea, as much as me daba miedo, I would get scared. I would be like, no, I don't know how to do that. It was like life kept leading me in the direction towards my purpose, right? My sueño. But I remember from a young age, yo quería ser a pediatrician. I wanted to be a pediatrician, a doctora for young kids because I love children and I love youth, and I wanted to help support and guide esa generación. But my sister had a brain tumor at a very young age. She was only 9, and we're about 6 years apart. And so from a young age, estaba en el hospital all the time. I was there at the hospital and I was just crying for all the babies that were experiencing challenges with their health and, different ailments. And I thought, I don't think I could do that. Like I thought that was my propósito, but then life put me in this situation. I was like, yeah, maybe not. And we're blessed to continue to have my sister here. She's in remission. She's doing well. Pero that was an experiencia that taught me que a lo mejor ese no era mi camino. But yet I knew que tenía que servir a mi comunidad. And so I thought, what about a psychologist, right? I'm still supporting people. I'm still offering in a good way. But then, of course, el miedo, right? Well, the education is a long journey. I don't know if I could do it. So I was in high school, and I often like sharing this story because my parents don't have a higher education, right? And so ellos no sabían like, mija, you have to fill out this paperwork to get into school. You have to do all these things. But they did instill in me, ve a la escuela, go to school, go to school, go to school. That was very much a part of the mensaje, the message. But there was a student that came to my high school to help us apply for undergrad. And I remember thinking, pues yo no tengo una escuela. You know how some people have a dream like, oh yeah, I know I want to go to this university. And yo no, I was just like, a ver qué pasa. We'll see what happens. And so I filled out the application and I love the beach. So I'm like, okay, I want to apply for Cal State Long Beach. And then they're like, you should apply to a couple more. And I'm like, all right, fine. Cal State LA and I don't know, Cal State San Diego. I was just, thinking of La Playa. I was like, I want to be near the water. And as life has it, they put people in our journey, experiences to guide us and support us. They're like ángeles, they're angels. And so, yeah, sure enough, filled it out, didn't think anything of it. And I got accepted to Cal State Long Beach. And I was like, oh my gosh. And my dad was like, mija, tienes que ir, te aceptaron, And I was like, apá, but it's going to be expensive. He's like, don't worry about it. Just don't worry about the money when it comes to education, he said, because this is something that nobody can ever take from you. La educación is part of who you are, mija. So don't worry about the money. And I was like, wow, that really impacted me. He goes, you can buy things and they could take them, but your education, nobody can ever take it away. And so I said, okay, pues. And I went to Cal State Long Beach, and it was the time of my life. I was really just getting to know who I was and being around different people, different culturas, just a different experience. And one day, so my parents own a motorcycle shop. And one day, my dad gets this pamphlet at the shop to study abroad. And he's like, mija, mira, te escogieron to study in another country. They chose you out of all the students at Cal State Long Beach to go study in another country. And I was like, apa, what? Like, this is a guy that didn't even let me sleep over my prima's house, my cousin's house. So I'm like, sure. And he says, they chose you. And I thought for a second, dang, I better run with it, because if he's telling me que puedo ir, that I can go to another part of the world, I'm going to do it. So even though I had never left my parents' house, I was still living there. I was a commuter student going to Long Beach. I had this opportunity. And obviously they sent that pamphlet to a lot of students. It wasn't just me, but I had this opportunity that was handed to me that even though it scared me, I felt like I had to do it. And so sure enough, I signed up. I had all my papeleo, I had all my paperwork, and I took off and I studied in London. And so why I share that story is because sometimes we have these sueños, these dreams that feel so huge and insurmountable. Like, can I ever accomplish that? But what I would do is I would just take it one step at a time. As things would come up, I would walk that camino. And so, I had a master plan. Like, once I get my undergraduate degree, I'm going to go get my doctorate. I'm going to become a psychologist. It's going to be easy. Yeah, no, that did not happen. So I graduated and I applied for my doctorate and they did not accept me. And that was very hard porque I did not have a plan B, y'all. I was like, this is it. This is going to happen. Let's go. And at that particular time, my friend got a job offer in the Bay Area in San Francisco. And mind you, I had only been to San Francisco one time. I was in my early 20s, and my friend says, hey, they invited me to go get a job out there in the Bay Area, but I don't know, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, let's go. She says, what? Yo me invité. Like, yeah, I was inviting myself. And she said, wait, but you don't even have a job. I'm like, I'll figure it out. And so sure enough, I went from never having any bills to now I got to pay my car note. I got to pay, my beeper. They still had beepers back in the day. My cell phone and la renta. And, the rent was expensive in the city. But again, it was an opportunity. And I said yes, in spite of the fear. And so my friend and I moved out to the Bay. I had a beautiful experience out here. I got a job and, I was getting to know myself. And it was actually then in 2002 that I chose to walk the Camino of love, because there was a lot of heartache in my childhood. There was a lot of pain. There was a lot of trauma. And I was always angry and just not really living my vida in a good way because I was so hurt and wounded. Pero it was then in 2002 that I decided, you know what? I want to learn about love, porque nadie nos enseña. Nobody teaches us. They just assume that we know. And it was a very conscientious decision. And I said, this is it. I'm going to walk the Camino. I'm going to learn. I'm going to read. I'm going to challenge myself. Pero todavía I carried that dream of becoming a psychologist in my pocket. And I often tell people, I had that dream in my pocket without the hole, porque si no, se cae el sueño, like that dream will fall. So I had the dream in my pocket and I carried it with me. And so sometimes we have dreams in our corazón that are incessant, that stay there, that stay with us, that tug at us, right? And so, yeah, sure enough, you know, I lived my life out here. It was great. But I was like, I want to go back to school. Like, I want to get that education. So we moved back to Southern California and I applied again to the doctorate. And they did not accept me again. But I was so determined. I said, okay, I'm going to apply for the master's and I'm going to prove to you that I can do this. So I applied to the master's and they let me in. But what's fascinating is that the degree that I did, the school that I did get into, that summer, a professor was going to take a group of students to study in El DF, in Mexico City. So before I even started school, my hand went up like, I want to go study in Mexico. Now, had I been accepted to that other school, this opportunity wouldn't have been a reality for me. And so I often share that story as well because I say, sometimes we have a redirection, right? Sometimes the door closes, but then another one opens that you're like, man, I don't want to go to that one. I want to go to the other door. Like we have a plan, right? But Spirit Creator has another plan. And so sure enough, me fui a estudiar a Mexico. I went to study in Mexico. And what's interesting, so y'all introduced me as Dulce, right? Well, my name is Dulce Jazmín. And from the 4th grade up until my mid-20s, I would go by Jasmine because people did not know how to pronounce Dulce. Mm-hmm. And so although I was born here, my parents are Mexicanos, I had to assimilate and acculturate into this cultura, right? So I was embarrassed. Oh, people call me, different. They don't know how to say Dulce. So please call me Jasmine. But when I went to study in Mexico, I was able to reclaim my identity, my cultura, the richness of who we are, the beauty of our ancestros and the ways that we heal. And so I reclaimed my name and I said, you know what? I'm Dulce. And if people don't know how to pronounce it, I'll show them. I'll teach them. And so it's so fascinating because it wasn't until I accepted this part of me. Now when I share my name, people are like, oh, it's so sweet. Qué bonito nombre. It's so nice, right? They mirror to me where I am and what I'm feeling. And so completed, a year in my master's program. Y otra vez, terca Dulce, stubborn Dulce is like, I'm going to apply again, homie. Like, come on. And I did, and this time they said yes. It was a scary thing, but it was like, I'm determined, I'm going to do it. And I often tell people that when we have a dream, a mission, we have to keep going no matter how many times the doors close. And let me just share, that's just the process of me getting into the program. Then I finally get to graduate and I complete my degree and I do my dissertation. And it was very important for me that my dissertation was something that I was going to give back to the community and not just extract information. And so I created a mental health awareness program for Latinos in a community college. And I did my dissertation in Spanish and English, because I wanted to make sure more people can tap into the mental health services that they can receive in the community college. And so folks were like, yeah, you graduated. Let's throw big fiestas. Let's, you're done. And I'm like, espérense, like, hold up. Now I have to get licensed. And that was a whole nother extremely, extremely challenging part of my life. It took years for me to get licensed. I mean, I kept failing and trying. And I remember questioning myself, like, is this really the camino I'm meant to take if I'm struggling so much? But again, it was that dream that was in my corazón. And I said, no, tú síguele, tú síguele. And so connecting spiritually, connecting with my familia, connecting with my amistades, with my friends, with my círculo, they would give me that reminder, like, just keep going. And so, yeah, years and years and years later, I remember writing a letter to my future self and talking to that part of me that was going to be licensed. And I remember just sobbing, like writing to her, like, congratulations, I know you did it. ¿Cómo se siente? How do you feel? And so I like asked my future self questions. When I finally got that license as a psychologist, I opened that letter. Oh man, I was able to answer those questions to myself.
That's powerful. I just so admire your perseverance, not giving up, in spite of, all the disappointments and the challenges. And I think that's what we need. We need to not even, when we get in those situations, it's so easy to just get stuck and give up and just blame it on everybody and never, reach our full potential. But I think a lot of us need, that I feel the word endurance is being lost. Like everybody wants everything so quick and so fast and they don't want to earn it. And, but I'm sure because of all your challenges and all the things that were disappointing you, it just made you such a stronger person, obviously. And this is the reward for not giving up. Doctora Corazon, you've dedicated your life to offer so much healing to others through your approach of love and transformation, and I couldn't agree with you more. What the world needs now is love, sweet love, And I know that I say that because I know personally I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for all of the people that loved on me when I needed it the most, when that flickering light inside of me was going out and there was just no hope, no more hope. Creator is so generous, ancestors so extremely generous to place those right people in my path at the right time to reignite and help me remember who I am and just help me refocus and get back on my feet and not give up, like you said. And that, I know I couldn't have been done without someone showing me that love. It's so important. I'm wondering if you could share, maybe some of the core teachings that you teach that have been working and you see that transformation right before your eyes because of your approach. How have you been able to cultivate and share all those life teachings professionally, but also personally in your personal relationships with that approach and to create that metamorphosis through amor?
Thank you, Maestra Susie. As you were sharing your story, I had the image of the mariposa, right? So from a young age, I've loved the mariposa, just the colors and the way it flies, and in particular the monarca, right? All that it has to go to get to where it is. But now, as a adulta, as a mujer, as a mother, I recognize that it's the metamorphosis, the metamorphosis that I'm so intrigued by and reminded by. That it begins as a tiny little egg, and it's just maybe like a thought or an idea. And sometimes it doesn't leave us alone, right? Like I was sharing earlier, like, síguele, síguele. It's like that vocecita, maybe from our ancestors, right? From our guides. Mm-hmm. And then eventually a little oruga comes out. And what it has to do is it has to eat and become plump and juicy and transform, but it has to shed its skin over and over to let go, right, of that old part of itself. And so it's similar to our journey in having to shed parts of who we are, parts of things that maybe no longer serve us, or relationships que a lo mejor are too challenging and that we've outgrown. And then eventually it goes into a chrysalis. And it's this really powerful stage where it feels like complete darkness, because now the caterpillar is mush and it's now inside of this chrysalis and it's being worked through and on and it's being transmuted and transformed. And I often say that this is when we experience that pain where we question how am I going to get through this moment in time? And it hurts to the point that like our heart hurts. And so in this particular stage, what's fascinating about nature and also the nature of who we are is that we carry the medicina within us, not just some of us, but all of us. It is our birthright. And so eventually you see the chrysalis go from being green to being clear, and you see the alas of the monarca, you see the butterfly wings of the monarch. And what happens is this tiny little opening emerges from the chrysalis. And so the mariposa has to struggle to come out, because without that struggle, then the wings won't be able to expand in order to fly. And so sometimes we see folks struggling and we say, oh, no, poor thing, let me do something to fix the situation, to make them get through it. But we're actually doing them a disservice, because sometimes in that pain is when we find our purpose. And so eventually la mariposa, the butterfly, emerges into its new form. And it takes time for it to adapt and adjust and expand its wings for it to then begin its journey and to fly. But I think it's similar to ourselves, right? That we're constantly going through a different metamorphosis, a different metamorphosis. And what I love to share oftentimes is that we can be at different stages at the same time, that healing is not linear, that it's not like, okay, I got my wings, I'm good, right? Like, I don't have to go through nothing anymore. Yeah, no, that's not going to happen. I'm sorry.
Right.
But there's going to be yet another metamorphosis. There's going to be another transformation. And I think it's so humbling to have grace for ourselves, that in one area of our lives, we could feel like a little caterpillar, like a little oruga. And possibly in another stage in our lives, we feel like, I got my wings, I got my alas, I'm good, right? But what I share with as many people as I can, be it my friends or my community or those that I'm able to serve, is that is our journey. That is the trajectory of who we are as human beings, as spiritual beings, having a human experience. And how humbling to know that it's a never-ending journey of getting to know who we are, of finding new ways of showing up for ourselves and others. And so what I also want to bring into our plática and our círculo is that in 2006, my sister gifted me this huge art journal. It's a blank art journal. And I remember looking at this art journal and being like, ¿Y yo qué voy a hacer con eso? Like, what am I going to do with this huge, I'm not a creative, I'm not an artist. Again, that intuitive, right? The intuitive voice said, just do something, open it up. And so I was pushed into, pouring myself into this book. And the first journal took me 10 years to complete. And it was a time where I was writing my dreams, my visions, my ideas, like what I wanted to experience, and also just trying to heal those parts of me that had pain. And essentially, I was like rewiring my brain through this art journal. And after I completed that one, it took me 10 years. I bought a second one, but the second one was like a more decent size. I didn't buy such a big one this time. And this second one, it took me 4 years to complete. And I'm currently working on my third one. And what I will say is that when I was going through my own healing journey through these libros, I never imagined that one day I was going to share them out with folks, that I was going to open up, like my corazón, and say, hey, this is how I got through all these experiences. And there's still much more healing to do. It's not like I'm saying I'm done. But one of my friends, when I shared this with her, she said, Dulce, what these journals are our legacy. They're what we're going to leave behind when we're no longer here. And somebody's going to open these love journals and say, wow, that was my grandma. That was my grandpa. That was my great-great-granny. That was my tia. That was my friend. That was my prima. And I thought, wow, how I would have loved to have read the story of my ancestors. I don't even know what my father's father looked like. I don't have a picture. And so as we're unfolding in life, spirit and creator is working through us all the time. And so when I was beginning my journey with these love journals in 2006, I didn't know that I was getting prepared to now offer this medicina that we all carry, to create a legacy, to shift and to heal the generations behind us and the generations before us.
I love that part, right, of the metamorphosis.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that in that dark time, right, because it's dark, there's lessons that we learn during that time that we can't learn any other way, right? And the importance of that. Because we learn those lessons in the dark to hopefully come out in the light and let the light be the witness of those things. And through your journey, I'm sure there was a lot of adventures. And I'm sure, as you have been on this path of working with others, you've had a lot of different experiences. And I'm just wondering if you could share with us maybe one of those stories, right, where you're like, man, I really want to help somewhere. It doesn't look like there's any kind of promising ending here. And then somehow the metamorphosis happens, right? The butterfly comes up, right? And you're like, how the heck did that happen? Can you share one of those stories that help you continue on the path, right? Because it's those stories that go like, oh yeah, this looks, kind of scary here, but I remember that gives us the strength to continue on to meet the other challenges that come our way. If you could share one of those stories with us.
Thank you. Wow, this is a powerful question. And I hope that whoever listens to this plática, that they take the time to write down their stories of the ways that people have showed up at the perfect time, right? It's like the synchronicity, the magic, the miracles. We talked about that when we were spending time together at the retiro.
Mm-hmm.
That when we walk this camino, when we truly walk the camino of transforming through love, like we magnetize, we experience so many milagritos. So of course I have so many stories, but I want to share one in particular because I was in a really, really rough place. So this was 2013, 2012, algo así. It was around that time. And it was one of the many times that I was studying to retake that licensure exam. And I was sitting at a Panera's and I was sitting with all my papeleo, my paperwork, my pens and markers and all the things and sticky notes. And it was a whole scene. It was a whole scene with me and all these things in front of me because I was in a really dark place, just questioning, am I going to get through this? Like, this is so hard. And so I was in my elemento, I was in my element, just doing my thing, learning. And there was this couple in front of me sitting close to me. And this woman just kept looking at me. And I'm real friendly, so I smiled, She nodded. And then her partner, got up and then she approaches me and she says, Spirit just keeps nudging me to come and talk to you and it won't leave me alone. And I was like, wow, okay. And then she says, and I've been asked to do a divination for you. And I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but if she would have busted out like La Biblia, I would have been like, nah, I'm cool. Like, she would have busted out the Bible. Everybody's different spiritually, but that was not my jam, right? But she didn't. What she busted out was these Louise Hay deck of cards, power cards. And I love me some Louise Hay. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay. She shuffles the cards in front of me. She's praying on them. She opens up the deck and she says, choose 3 cards. And I was like, okay. So I chose 3 cards. And I remember one card was like, it's only change. The other one No me acuerdo. Pero la tercera, the third one, oh, I remember that one. The tercera, that third one said, your future is glorious. And I just started sobbing. Like, not like lágrimas, but like ugly cry. The ugly cry, and
Guttural cry.
that guttural, your bone, you just feel it. Mm-hmm. And I was just sobbing because here is this person that does not know me, but Spirit was working through her and saying, dale este mensaje, give her that message. And she listened. And then I said yes. And it was in the way that I knew I was going to be open to it. So our mensajes come to us in the way that we are open to them. Maybe somebody else wouldn't have been cool with the deck. You know what I'm saying? But Spirit knows. And so I told her, like, can I hug you? And she's like, of course. And we hugged it out. And she says, I'm going to do a women's group. I'm going to start tomorrow. She's like, and I'm just feeling pulled to invite you. And I was like, yes. And I'm like, what's your name again? And so, we connected and we got to know each other. Pero that next day in the morning, I was there. And I was even earlier. I was there before she showed up. I was so excited. Because in that moment, she was a mirror to me. And she told me, you're going to be fine. Tú síguele. And these messages and those miracles come all the time, but we don't listen. We don't pay attention to the way we're being nudged. And so I was there. I did the círculos with her. And another fascinating thing is, like, I'm going to these meetings because I'm so excited, and I'm running out, and my husband's friend's there, and he's like, Dulce, I need to tell you about this book. And I said, dude, I got to go. I'm going to be late. Let me just tell you about this book. Okay, tell me about the book. It's called Zero Limits. And I'm like, okay, I'll look into it later. I got to go to my, to my group. Okay, thank you. So I am there. I do the grupo. It was powerful. I stayed longer. I helped her clean up and, put away all her medicina. And then we start talking and we start chatting it up. And she says, there's this book I want to recommend you. And then I said, let me guess. And she looks at me and I said, Zero Limits. She goes, how did you know? You can't make this up.
But we got to listen and pay attention, right?
Eso.
The synchronicities are all over. But if we're just so stuck in ourselves and in our wounds and in our pain, we'll miss it every time. Doctora Corazon, Doctor of Love. I'm thinking back, and I'm glad it was years ago, not today. Whenever I would hear that word love or I would see a heart, I used to right away, the equation for that was love equals pain. Mucho dolor. Mucho dolor. I said, it was almost like I was scared of love because so many people that I loved, I lost. My heart was so full of grief. People that I thought, would have my back and were down for me. And it was hasta la muerte, till death do us part, betrayed me. So many friends and relatives that I thought I could trust, as my heart was filled with disappointment. And, a lot of times it was just like, just stay away from that word. Like, don't go, just go everywhere else, but don't go to the heart. And we know today, that's where the healing happens. It doesn't happen in the mind. It doesn't happen intellectually at all. Spirit-breaking words, spirit-breaking experiences have to be healed in the heart, and we have to be willing to have that courage to go there and visit that part of us that has been locked away for so long. I'm wondering, Doctora, if you would be so generous to maybe, for all those that are listening, those might be having had their heart broken or they're in a heartbreaking situation right now and they just feel hopeless like we all have all felt at different times. If there's some consejos that you would be willing to share that can help them to know, that it's not forever, it will pass, but in the moment you're just thinking like, I just can't go on. I can't live anymore. What's the purpose, but what are maybe some words that you've been able to share for people who have come to you with their broken heart?
Thank you for that pregunta. I think, when I share about love, you're right. A lot of folks are like, a mí no me hables de eso. There's so much pain associated with that.
Absolutely.
And it was the same for me, right? It was a decision I made. And so gently, I invite folks to start walking, even with that heartbreak, to start walking the path of love.
Mm-hmm.
Even and especially because of that heartbreak. Because what I see, and I love Rumi says, you have to keep breaking open. And this is timeless. When we talk about love, it's beyond time and space, truly. It is the most powerful force in el universo. It's what created all of us, each and every one of us, right? It is who we truly are. And so I often invite folks to be curious about love through the tears, through the pain. You know, because it's when we are going through it that we're breaking open. And of course, it's easier to say that when the situation has passed. But I think in particular, when we're going through it, that's when we have to hold on to love. It is what's going to keep us afloat when we feel like we're in an ocean of despair. And so how do you hold on to love? People are like, well, how do I do it, Dulce? And I have read over 35 books on love. I have watched videos. I have YouTubed. I have TED Talked. I have journaled. I have read. I have shared, because it is my commitment. And so I invite folks to begin or continue the camino towards love. It will change your life. Like, I guarantee it. This might sound kind of crazy, y'all, or wild, but I truly believe that I know the meaning of life. Are you ready? I truly believe that the meaning of life is to fully and completely love ourselves so much that we're outpouring con ese amor, and that all the medicina, all of the experiences that we have, that we give it away every day, freely, openly, to as many people as we can.
Beautiful.
Para eso estamos aquí. That's why we're here. We're here to heal for ourselves, but for each other, for the community, for the collective. And so así camino mi camino. Like, every day I wake up, and from the moment I open my eyes to the moment I close them, I am working on love, and I'm healing myself, and I'm sharing it as often as I can.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Just like anything of value, there has to be a dedication, right?
Yes.
That will encompass sacrifice.
That's right.
You know, because in order to love, you have to be fearless, right? Because of the pain. I think you said something that sometimes we overlook, which is we make a decision to love or to walk on the path. And every day, you know, like we share, like we have the Papa Sol song, every day we decide to have an attitude of gratitude, of love, or to be happy. And I think sometimes it's so simple in that way, right? But that is profound. But it's simple that we try to complicate it. Like, oh no, it's all this, when it truly is a decision. Because when you said that, you decided, and I'm going to encourage you to decide to walk with me in love. And I'm hoping our audience is catching that, because that is, you know, que se prende el foco de eso.
Ándale.
You know, because it is in all of our capacity to make that decision. And I'm really grateful for that reminder that you're sharing with us, you know, that we can make that decision, you know, to love ourselves. And I love the way that you put that we love ourselves so much that the overflow, you know, will just impact everybody else around us. But before we close, because we're getting close to closing, there's one thing that I believe goes along with love, but we really haven't talked about. And I share that because I know you and you are so full of it. And I just want to make sure we touch it.
We're talking about love, right?
But it's
I'm
laughter.
also full of that too. I'm also full of that.
But it's laughter, right?
Yes.
The laughter, the medicine of laughter that comes out of love.
So much.
Right?
Yes.
And, because I love to laugh too. And it's just when it's around you and others are like that, then the whole world is laughing, right? But really quick, because you are so... Audience, let me just tell you, she could have her own 1-hour comedy session, a Netflix series, if she is hilarious as well. But can you share a little bit about that too? Because you walk with both of that.
Yes.
So much joy.
Yes. Oh my God, that's amazing. I definitely feel like my sense of humor is what has sustained me, like hands down. Before I even committed to love, it was humor. For sure. Like that has been, así salí de mi mamá, just like, this. Yeah, I think for me, humor is medicine. Humor is medicina. It shifts your energy. Scientists say just the mere smiling, even if you don't feel good, even if you're struggling, but just smiling changes your biology. And so, para mí, el humor, the sense of humor has been definitely one of my foundational ways of healing, of coping, of transmuting the challenges. And I love how Maestra Susie brought in the word joy because, again, no sé de dónde me salen mis ideas. I don't know where these ideas come from, but in 2008, there was this little voice that said, choose a word. Choose a palabra for the year. And I was like, what? Okay. You got to listen to that intuition. So I said, joy, alegría. That's going to be my choice. I'm going to choose joy. And so from 2008, every year since the beginning of the year, I decide to commit myself to a palabra or a theme. And it has truly transformed my life. And so again, in this plática that we're offering, I hope that folks are picking up what we're dropping. You know what I'm saying? Picking up these invitations because it's a call to action. Because the more we all heal and, feel the pain. I'm not saying this is all mariposas and unicorns and rainbows. Don't get it twisted. Healing is pain. But the foundation tiene que ser ese amor. The foundation has to be love to sustain in this lifetime and past the lifetime, right? But humor, olvídate. And you know what? I'm just going to drop it here. You're not the first person that's told me I need a Netflix series. So let's just shout it out, put it out there. I'm ready for the milagros.
Zero limits.
That part.
Wow. Well, what a joy. What a joy to be able to spend this time with you. And I'll tell you, for those that are listening, the retreat that they're talking about, the Retiro, we have an annual retreat, women's retreat that we do, usually in July. And oh my goodness, do we have a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of laughter. A lot of crazy singing and dancing. It's an all-women's retreat, and so it's really our ability to come together and heal together, right, as a community of women, and also going to the lodge. And at that time, we just had a lot of tears of laughter as we come together. I thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us on this podcast. And I'm sure if you have been listening, that there's so many things that have touched your heart. And the message is not to give up. Yes. Don't give up. Sometimes we give up right before that blessing's going to come.
Yes.
But it's that tenacity, like that determination, like sticking to your dream, whatever that dream is.
Yes.
Listen, if it was easy, so many people would have it. But because there has to be a determination, a decision to stick to that path, there's few that have it. And so, and so I mentioned a couple, and I'm going to turn over to my comadre also to share. But I know that these are messages that we all need to hear so that we continue to grow on our path and decide to really stick to the path so that we don't cheat ourselves. But comadre, what are some of your thoughts? It's been an amazing conversation here.
Love, 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 love.
All we need is love.
Yeah, just again, what she's all about, love and transformation. And I just really like what you're sharing, Doctora. We have to really find the courage to reconnect with our corazones, with our hearts. We live in a society that just tries to distract, and whatever we do, just don't let them be in their heart. There's a lot of power there. A lot of power, there's a lot of wisdom. Creators and ancestors always speaking to us, and we can't access that medicina if we don't allow ourselves to go there. So thank you for sharing that. That's so powerful. Transformation, metamorphosis, MetAMORfosis.
Yes.
That's right. Oh my gosh. That was another milagrito, right? When I was getting, the way life unfolds, and I was getting my logo made, and I was coming up with a nombre for it. And I wanted it to be in Spanish, Metamorphosis, right? And so as my friend was creating the logo, I was like, wait a minute, amor is inside of Metamorphosis. Wow. And so I said, put that in red. Put that in red, because there it is. Within that pain, within that death and rebirth is love.
Beautiful. Wow. Well, I just want to thank you, all our listeners, for being with us on this conversation. And again, I know it's never a disappointment. I know that you're going out a little bit better than when you started. And I just encourage you, if you feel you need to hear it a little bit better, rewind the tape, hear it, play it again, so that we can get these messages.
Yes.
Because truly, where it's all at is within the heart, within that love for us. And that is healing on so many levels. That's healing of the spirit, of the emotion, of the mental, and our physical have to do with love. And so I want to thank you. Thank you for joining us today, the Comadre-sponsored Healing Generations podcast. And we want to invite you back to next month. Make sure you come back and tune in. Follow us on Facebook, the NCN website, National Compadres Network. Go to the women's part of the webpage, and you will find us there, all our events, activities. And so please like us. I don't know what that means, but like us with love today.
Yeah.
Comadre, qué bendición. Yes.
Bendiciones. Gracias, doctora. Adelante.
Gracias a ustedes. Thank you so much again for inviting me, for allowing me to be in your presencia, and that our palabras reverberate to many, many people, many corazones.
Adelante.
So con eso, bendiciones. Blessings to you all.
Mateo.
Con mucho amor.
For more information about Healing Generations and the Healing Generations Institute, visit nationalcompadresnetwork.org and be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with our new releases.